Hey, everybody, this is Alex Merced, and welcome to another episode of Catalogs or Manifest and Metadata. Oh my. And today, what I want to talk about is the metadata.json file for Apache Iceberg tables. Okay, so basically, there are three tiers of metadata in Apache Iceberg. So oftentimes the way it works is that an engine is going to go over to the catalog, which we talked about in the last episode, and be like, hey, I'm looking for table A. Where's table A? And it'll return a storage address. So it could be like an S3 address or something like that. And that's the location of the metadata.json, which has all the information for that engine to be able to really understand, hey, what is this table? So in the metadata.json, you're going to find the current partitioning of the table, the current schema of the table, the history of snapshots. And there's a history of all these things because, again, schemas can change, um, partitioning can change, and snapshots, of course, change in Iceberg. So there's actually a list of the historical versions of all of these things in that metadata.json. And the beautiful thing about that is this is what facilitates things like partitioning evolution, because there's essentially a central place where you can refer to all previous partitioning schemes. And the great thing about this is that this means the level of detail about the partitioning scheme, the schema, doesn't have to be repeated in other files. They can now reference them based on their index in this array. So a file might say, hey, this particular file was written with schema 1. So in that metadata.json, we are aware of what the different schemas are, so we can then go back and say, okay, hey, this is schema 1. So this was written with this schema, but the current schema is schema 3, and we can apply that schema to the output. So that's sort of the beauty of it. And then this also facilitates time travel, because basically from that metadata.json, you'll have a list of all the different snapshots. So then you can specify a timestamp or a snapshot ID, and it can then find the snapshot that would be the most current snapshot based on your timestamp, or the one that has a matching ID to be the subject of your particular search. Okay, and this is different than essentially how others may do it, where basically you would have to oftentimes juggle multiple files. You have everything you really need to kind of make a lot of these decisions at the engine level in one file. Okay, instead of sort of bouncing between a couple different metadata files. And then you would go, once you identify the snapshot you want to scan, then that would take you to the the manifest list, which will be the subject of our next episode. But again, Apache Iceberg has a really cool metadata setup. I'm doing this in a very modular way so that we can come back and listen to the pieces you need whenever you need a refresher. But essentially, the metadata.json is the reason it's JSON is because it's not rows of data. So when we get to the manifest list and manifest, they're rows of data, which is why they chose the avro format, because it's faster for rows of data. While the metadata.json is more like general details that doesn't match any particular structure, because the list of partitions is different than the list of snapshots, which is different than so since it's a much more semi-structured type data, JSON makes a lot more sense for that particular data. And you starting to really understand some of the architectural decisions of how, why certain formats were used for certain parts of the metadata tree. So we'll leave it at that. I'll see you all later. Have a great one and enjoy.